one day I will get better opening music, or I will get one that isn't so like, what enough, we are here. Well,
kind of like champagne.
It's right. At least this one wasn't quite as like the last one I had, which I did not vet at all. I was just like, oh, that looks a little bit like a beaker. I'll use that. And it was like Imperial March of the Stormtroopers. Like that was poorly planned out. So, anyways, hello. It's just gotta greet the humans as they're coming in. Hello, Star. Hello, James from Chicago. Hello, Peter. Hello, Richard. Hi. Hello, my humans. As you're filing in, I would like to introduce you all to one of my hello, Akiko. Hello. I have to introduce you all to one of my favorite humans that I met whilst I was on the road. Now, if you guys don't know, when I go and give talks and when I'm traveling and when I'm going to meet skeptic groups, occasionally, and never mind occasionally, pretty much every time I go and meet with a skeptic group, I end up exchanging email or Facebook accounts with a couple people. And Z is one of the people who I met on the road at, I believe, St. Louis Skeptics Society.
It was, yeah.
Yes,
Society of St. Louis.
Yes, and you're one of my favorite people who I've met on the road. Look, I don't.
You're one of my favorite people too.
Oh, it's like, and it is. I'm not always I'm not always a chatty person on the internet. I get it. I'm impossible to stop talking once I start. But like, I'm someone who will retreat to my corner of the internet and be like, look, I've talked too much today. I need humans away from me. But like, you're someone who I just gab with nonstop about all the things. So I'm grateful that I met you and you just whipped out a deck of cards and started doing card tricks.
A lot of good late night good times and just rambling about all kinds of stuff. And hey, now we're live and rambling together.
Yes, we're here to hopefully give you, as Courtney Ryder just said, hello, my beautiful Friday night dose of sanity. Look, if we're giving you sanity, I'm very sorry. Something's gone terribly wrong, but something's gone terribly wrong for all of us right now, and we're doing what we can. It's as someone just noticed. Yes, a kitty is here, Oliver, who's always very happy. Oliver's always very happy to be picked up. Very, as you can see, he's so thrilled right now. So thrilled. Aww. Oliver, your ears are saying "love me." This is wonderful. He's gonna stay right here. He's like, nah, I'm not staying. He's like, I'm out. I'm out. And Buddy's like, oh, you'd put down the cat? I'm coming over now too. They're just taking turns. They're swap-seeing on where they go to. So, anyways, so for everyone who's filing in, church is opening up. Come on in, my babies. So I mentioned this earlier. Z is a geneticist, and it's if you want to show people your shirt, he is specifically a CRISPR geneticist. Now that is something we're gonna take a little side trek away from the COVIDs. I love that shirt because that CRISPR is something that I haven't explained that much, even with all the stuff that I've talked about GMOs over the years. And I'm so glad that number one, I'm so glad to have you in my life, my friend. But I'm glad to have you. I'm glad to have you on here today so that we can talk about this a little bit more, so that you can explain in ways that I would not be able to about working with CRISPR and about the history of the tech and how it works and what we're using it for now. So well,
CRISPR is a really interesting story. Yeah. It would be impossible to go into all of the ways that CRISPR has been changing the world of biology and biotechnology and biochemistry.
If you can't explain it all, then you can't be on the show.
Oh, the impact is amazing. But it starts from a story of basic science. It starts from people doing just pure discovery research with no idea what they would eventually stumble upon and come across. Yeah. So in the 1990s, people started doing, a lot of DNA sequencing because we started getting the technology to be able to do that. Mm-hmm. And people noticed, in the 1990s and 2000s, something really interesting in the genomes of all kinds of different bacteria. So if you look at bacterial genomes, they found all of these different bacterial species which had these really weird clusters in their DNA. Mm-hmm. And these clusters looked like basically it was like a little bit of sequence, and then a different sequence, and then the same bit, and then a different bit, and the same bit, and a different bit, same bit, different bit, same bit, different bit, same bit, different bit. Just a big string of that. And unlike, animals and plants, bacteria are really, really frugal with their DNA. There's not really much DNA in bacteria that is non-coding and just sitting there being junk and not doing anything. So obviously this had to be doing something. And so these were called CRISPR, which is, oh shoot, what's the acronym? It's clustered, regularly interspaced, short, repetitive, something.
Your guess
Basically,
is as good as mine.
a description of what they saw. These like short little bits of DNA interspaced with these sequences that were identical. So it's like barcode, bit, barcode, bit, barcode, bit. And the question was, well, what the hell are these? And it turns out that it's a bacterial immune system. We like to say that, you know, only humans and animals and so on have immune systems. But what bacteria have is this really cool DNA scissors. And those barcodes are mugshots of viruses that bacteria has encountered and will recognize again. So if a bacteria gets infected by a virus, if it survives, it's going to take that viral DNA and it's going to take a snapshot of it and just keep a copy of it in its own DNA in between these like repeat elements. And all these like virus A, repeat, virus B, repeat, virus C, repeat, virus D, repeat. All of these sequences get transcribed into one long string. Every single repeat gets a little cut in the middle. And you've got all of these tiny little short DNA barcodes. And these DNA barcodes load into a protein called Cas9. And Cas9 is a programmable DNA scissors. So that barcode with the viral sequence goes into Cas9, and then Cas9 just like grabs onto DNA and goes zip, reading its way through, and wherever it finds a perfect match, it just makes a cut, cuts the DNA. So basically, that's what it is. It's the bacteria keeping a library of all the viruses they've ever encountered and having this DNA cutting machine that takes those barcodes and snips them. And it turns out that this DNA barcode is something that we can take and we can program it with whatever DNA we want and use it ourselves. So the seminal paper was published by Jennifer Doudna and Emmanuel Charpentier in 2012. The complete picture of describing this CRISPR system.
I feel like I would have to read this a few times to like get it complete through my head, because that was a beautifully stated explanation, and I'm like, I would have to read this a few times before I could say it back. But no, thank you so much for that.
It's a programmable DNA scissors.
I like that.
The two women who discovered it won the Nobel Prize in chemistry this year. Doudna and Charpentier, congratulations to them. Most well-deserved Nobel Prize ever.
Definitely.
Because it turns out that having a programmable DNA scissors allows us to cut whatever arbitrary DNA we want in whatever kinds of cells we want, like on demand. And that has really just blown the door wide open in how we can edit DNA and how we can target and edit and change and delete and destroy and break and add and insert.
So it's been awesome. So, sorry, somebody in the chat just said Dr. Z is a gene hunter. Check out the bows and quiver on the wall behind him. So somebody else has commented, he knows we drink and stuff on here, right? So if you're so inclined to be a drunk and or high scientist, you're fully invited.
Oh, I had a bit of a.
Oh, I definitely had a lot of a. Earlier. I mean, it's Friday in the apocalypse. Like the fact you need to, we need this is what it comes down to. But let's see. Russell Smith said, "Don't worry, Cy Babe. This is why I save copies of these streams." That's terrifying. Look, we don't want a record of any of this to exist out. Like this is a sacred space where no one knows what's happening. That's how I view it. That's how it stays.
It's just encoded and saved on the internet forever.
Exactly. Yeah, that's totally. Anyways, let's see. So Star Starling asked. So it's kind of like we can really, we are really smart. We are a really smart virus, and we can hijack and reprogram DNA at will. Basically, yeah. That covers it. Quick. Simon has entered the chat. Can't let that go without being. That is just it's as that's just it can't go without being said. Mom,
hey, did you know your daughter's awesome?
Oh, She's look, she's dealt with me, and she somehow does not have like she has gray hair, but she also like it does not have a full head of gray hair, and she's 69. Nice. So I don't somehow this woman has like has like industrial strength, like put up with bullshit personality. She's pretty solid.
Mhm.
I'm a fan.
I saw a question a while back, which is, can CRISPR be used in like genetic bottlenecking of species?
Yeah, that one just came
the
up.
answer is not really, because CRISPR just targets and cuts DNA, and genetic bottlenecks are something different entirely. It's where you have a large population with a lot of genetic diversity, and you lose most of its members by some means, like plague or famine, or like a small group of them go off to a different island or whatever, and then you have very, very little genetic diversity in that remaining population. A programmable DNA scissors isn't gonna like magically restore a huge amount of genetic diversity that you lost, unfortunately.
Yeah, basically it's genetic bottlenecking. There are a handful of different things that can lead to that. Like basically there's a condition on the planet changes, and whatever there's a variation within the population that allows a small percentage of it to survive. It'd be hard to go into the population and be like, we can snip this particular gene to make them be able to have that thing that mutation that lets them survive. Like you can't, that's not quite where we're at with it, at least right now. So I don't think that's where it will be either, but it's definitely not where we are now with it.
Yeah. We lost vitamin C synthase a while ago to something like this.
How many?
We get scurvy, and other primates don't. We have the gene for making vitamin C. It's just mutated and broken. And it's mutated and broken in 100% of humans. And this didn't matter until we started taking long ocean voyages without citrus fruits.
It's like I knew that we'd lost it. I didn't know that all primates hadn't lost it. That's
other primates get along just fine.
How many like tens of thousands of years did that was it after we became a human species that it happened, or was it before? Like where do you?
I have no idea.
I wasn't sure if you knew that or not.
Yeah, I don't know exactly where.
I think that's fascinating. Like
right?
It's like I knew that, but I think it's interesting that somewhere along the line it was like, we don't need this anymore. So if you can't manage to suck down a lemon often enough, sorry, death for you, human.
Yay, mutation. If you don't need it, you'll lose it.
I wonder if we could now here's the next question. Can we CRISPR in or out that? Can we I don't know if fix is the right word, but could we alter that in a human genetic strain so that humans can synthesize their own vitamin C without?
The gene's still there, it's just broken. If you replace it with a functional copy, I see no reason why that wouldn't work. I mean, you could take like vitamin C synthase from some other primate and cut the DNA at that spot and swap that in.
This is how the downfall of human civilization. It starts with vitamin C, and then we have vampires. Like this is clearly it'll start with some scientists going, we could. Then eventually there's Jeff Goldblum saying, it's the it's gonna happen from there to there.
Yeah, that's one of those things that's really a big issue in the field of genetic engineering, is like designer babies. Because like on the one hand, who is gonna say no to, hey, we have this thing that makes sure that your child is not going to develop with some horrific genetic disease that's going to like cripple them and kill them by the time they're like 6 years old. And then on the other hand, it's like, here is our menu at this advanced hospital, and like for $50,000 we can make sure that your kid has like these genes for like high intelligence, and like these genes for this eye color and whatever.
Yeah, I mean, I wonder, like, if my parents had that option, if they'd been looking at, they're like, hey, we've got this group of eggs you've got, and you could have, it's like Yvette's little personality is going to be plunked into one of these eggs, and here are the ones that have Ehlers-Danlos and hemicrania continua and all the other shit that's going to make her life miserable. Or here's the egg that managed to not have shoulders that dislocate, and my parents would be like, we're gonna take that egg, like. I couldn't fault a parent for wanting that for their kid, but I also, there's also that question of where do you draw the line between choosing the embryo that doesn't have a genetic abnormality and tinkering with the genetic, and I don't know where the right answer for that is. Like I don't know.
Well, on the one hand, that's an ethical line that is really, really a really hard problem, and there's a lot of people who get paid a lot of money to like think about these kind of problems.
Yeah, that's why we're the scientists and not the bioethicists.
Right. On the other hand, doing this is not reliable enough to where we can just do it arbitrarily and willy-nilly. Like one of the things that we do in the lab is we make custom genetically engineered mice. And
nice.
Yeah, like suppose.
Do you have one with like an ear growing off its back yet? Because I want that.
I think that's more surgery than genetics. But I think those exist.
Yeah,
like there's a mouse with an ear on it.
I asked because I wasn't sure, like, because I know they use it kind of to like help and I don't know if the ear is the exact thing, but certain like skin grafts to grow that are needed for human. I find biology fascinating and horrifying. So we do weird things, and I love all of it. Anyways, carry on.
Parts both. Where was I?
It's
Bill Gates been cloned.
It's
no, I don't think so.
It's the field is not quite
the field's not
stable
quite,
enough
not quite there yet. It's not quite there yet. You know, when we make a custom genetically engineered mouse, like suppose that you had some rare genetic disease that you wanted to study. So you gather like 500 or 2,000 something children who all share this common ailment, and you sequence their entire genomes, and you go, like 80% of these kids have this mutation in common in like these parts of the genome. Interesting. So you go, well, let me recreate that in mice and see what happens. Nice. So you can do that, and you can take a whole bunch of mouse embryos, inject them with CRISPR-Cas9 and materials to target that, implant them into mice, and like maybe 1 in 100 to 1 in 10 pups that come out have that mutation. You breed them around until you have a pure population that all has that mutation, and then you can study it. Sometimes you find exactly the gene, exactly the protein that causes it. Sometimes you find that it's not that. Sometimes you find that it's more complicated. Sometimes you find that mice biology is different than human biology in really annoying ways.
To why we find out that only, 1 in 3 or 1 in 5 studies in mice can transfer over. They're it's hit or miss on whether studies in mice really transfer over.
Yeah, the more like innate and basic the biology, the better chance you have. Something like an immune system, not always great. Something like, behavior or like brain development and so on, like it's kind of hard.
A couple of people have asked some really good questions. So quick, Stanley Stevenson asked, can CRISPR be used in vivo in organisms?
We use it in vivo in organisms all the time. We make genetically engineered mice with custom inserts and mutations, and we put genes in. We take genes out. We change genes around. All kinds of stuff. We can do it in rats. We've made all kinds of CRISPR animals. Actually, I think it was last year, there was this rogue scientist in China who applied CRISPR to human embryos.
I heard about that.
The gene-edited babies, like there were 2 infant girls born to a woman in China, where they were,
what did they edited specifically?
They edited CCR5, which is the receptor which is recognized by the HIV virus, and which the HIV virus uses to insert itself into cells.
So theoretically, they've been CRISPR'd to be immune to
HIV immune. Yes,
that's amazing. If it works out, that's amazing. But also, holy shit, is that ethical? Like, what?
Absolutely not.
Yeah, like it's like whoa, like I don't know what's right.
I mean, the scientist really kind of got disappeared a little bit by the Chinese government because he kind of did this without permission and without anyone knowing. Just kind of under the table. and the informed consent was not great all around.
There are under the table things that are okay, like fixing somebody's broken door frame or doing a plumbing job. But I feel like genetic engineering is not an under the table thing. Just a guess.
No, it's horrible for the entire field because there is so much stuff that we can do. Like we can reverse sickle cell, for example, Tay-Sachs. Those are all
bunch of people are asking about these.
From one single locus. It's one single spot in the genome. We can target single spots in the genome just fine. More complex traits, more complex genetic diseases are still tricky. But as far as mutations and diseases that come from one single spot in the DNA, we can target a huge majority of those, and in theory, be able to edit them.
Now, here's a question that I wasn't sure about, and I'm curious about the answer too from Stanley Stevenson again. Can CRISPR cure genetic diseases in mature organisms?
No, that's one of the two. I know, that's one of the two big problems.
Why haven't you personally fixed that yet?
Yeah, well, like editing in single cells is easy. So you can edit a single, zygote and then grow it into a whole organism. But getting your material into every single cell of a developed adult organism, there's trillions of them, and it's just not happening. Whoever comes up with a way of like safely and comprehensively editing the genome of an adult organism is a shoo-in for the next Nobel.
That makes sense.
Whatever. No contest. If you figure out how to do that, here you go. The entire biotech world at your feet.
It's I mean, does anyone see that coming anytime soon? Probably not within our lifetimes, unlikely. But then again, every time we're like, that's never happened, it happens way sooner than we always expect. So who knows?
I remember one of my professors was at a conference talking with some like MD, PhD professors. They were like, we were working on using gene therapy to like treat this thing, and like we created this like viral DNA editing system, and we accidentally gave 20 people leukemia. So, oops.
That's some shit.
Yeah. When you're causing DNA breaks and you're causing mutations, you can fuck up a lot.
Makes me glad that all I did for research was deal with carcinogenic pesticides that could hurt me, not anyone else. Just to clarify, in the quantities I dealt with them, they could be carcinogenic, not in the quantities that they are when they get to the human population. But I just want to clarify before anyone's like, "Hey, you said they were safe." It's like, they're safe when they get to you.
Poison.
I was dealing with organophosphates in large quantities. We had to work.
Nerd gas, organophosphates.
Oh yeah, like we had, I believe, turbophos, ethoprop, and there were a few of them. Propophos was the other one. Like there were a few of them that they were like, less than 1 milligram of this will kill you. Cheers!
Wow. Did you have atropine on hand for like overdose or something?
We had basically like everyone had to get their acetylcholinesterase levels checked on like every 3 months, like especially if you were like, depending on which part of the lab you worked in, like because I was an analytical chemist and I was like, everything flowed downhill to me, because if you were a person who was synthesizing it or who was formulating it, I had to analyze it. So all of the production chemists and all of the formulation chemists, their shit came straight in my direction, and I was getting both the stuff that had broken down during testing processes, I was getting the stuff that had not been formed correctly during it was just, I saw a lot of it, and I had to learn, be really careful about safety. So it taught me a lot about how pesticides, could be unsafe if you didn't follow, directions carefully. But by the time they get to consumer, they're really, really diluted and they come with directions. But those were organophosphates are some nasty business, and I hope that we get away from using them as a whole, because it's like we have a lot of really brilliant scientists out there that have found other more targeted ways of getting rid of pests. We can get away from OPs eventually.
Yeah, let's get away from the stuff that we used to gas people in like World War One.
Yeah. That's I'm just the other thing is like I know that we are kind of getting away from that as a whole because Ambec is a company that I worked for, and for the record, great company. I loved working there. Like the nicest company I'd worked for in terms of the humans and how they treated people. But the way that they worked was they took old pesticides that were like on their last leg of usability and repackaged them and reformulated them. They're like, let's get the last little bit of money that we can that the market can suck out of these chemicals. Just a quick comment to someone in chat. Someone said, Cybabe Diet Pepsi, a woman after my own heart. For the record, it's only because this was on sale and Diet Coke was on sale for more money, and I am frugal. Okay, this is not the right stuff.
The market has spoken.
This will do is what it comes down to. It was 4 6-packs for 10, and it was 3 6-packs for 11 for the Diet Coke. And I am saying I can do math. I can do math, and I wanted caffeine. So there's my explanation. Somebody just asked about herbicide. So quick question or quick note: pesticide is the blanket term for all of them. I think people hear pesticide and they think it's just people mix up the term pesticide and insecticide. So pest refers to all of them, and that includes. Yeah, it refers to fungi, like that covers fungicides, and it covers nemicide, like it covers all of them. So herbicide, that's covered within the blanket term. So good time. So anyway, back to CRISPR for a moment. So right now, you said you're working on projects for a handful of different things, including some COVID research. What if you can you expound as to what you're working on with that?
Well, two of the things that I'm working on are about 2 months ago, I created COVID immune human lung cells. So I have those like frozen in liquid nitrogen right now.
Nice.
I mean, it's a lung cancer line. It's a lung epithelial cells, often used as a model of epithelial cells. And we had a scientist at WashU who wanted to do some flow cytometry and wanted to run some things through a cytometer, do some experiments with the COVID virus, and needed cells that didn't have the receptor that the virus targets. So I deleted the receptor in those cells and gave it to him, and he's working on experiments with them now. It took about a month and a half, and that's kind of stuff that we can do. Also,
so cool.
We're working on creating a mouse that has the human version of the receptor. So hopefully we're going to be creating a mouse that is susceptible to COVID that we can experimentally infect and test treatments on.
I'm just picturing like you accidentally creating a mouse that's susceptible to COVID and a few of them getting out infected with COVID, and then you guys starting the plague that destroys the world. I'm down with it. The world is we're clearly due for a cleansing, but I'm just saying, wouldn't it be fun? No, it wouldn't.
I mean, if you're worried about like COVID infected animals getting out, I think the horse has already left the barn.
Somebody just. Nicole just commented, I think I'm going to come. And I'm like, I don't know what we said that did that for you, Nicole, but you are welcome. We did everything. Like if it's the science that we're bringing, we came here to give you the good, hard, deep science. Z, you're bringing the good science today.
The good stuff.
Wow. Oh yeah. It's the talk about eliminating receptors and making COVID receptive mice. Oh yeah. Oh man. But that we're a little fucked right now with the COVID. We are we're a half hour into this. Let's talk about let's chat about some current of actually let's quickly answer this question that came in. Does CRISPR/Cas9 introduce frame shifts? That is
they do.
Can quickly expound upon frame shifts
frame shifts are so there's something in biology called the central dogma, which is essentially the blueprint for how life works. And the central dogma is DNA is basically your hard drive. It encodes all of the genetic information in a cell. DNA gets read by being transcribed into RNA. It's a transient messenger molecule that is a exact copy of the DNA, and then the RNA gets translated into a protein chain, which then folds itself based on all the different side groups into the particular shape that it needs to be to do the thing that it does. And our DNA and RNA gets read 3 letters at a time. So if you change a letter, you change one of the words in the RNA string. But if you delete or insert a letter, you change every single 3-letter bit downstream of it. And that's called a frame shift. And frame shifts are generally bad because they fuck up the entire protein string downstream. And that's usually how we delete genes. We can suppose you had a gene for like hemoglobin, for example. It might be some couple hundred amino acids. It might be a few thousand DNA bases. And if you change a DNA base at the very beginning, if you delete or insert one, then you change which 3 bases go where all the way downstream, and you just completely fuck up that protein. And since that protein is fairly essential for life, what you're going to have is a cell that just doesn't survive and develop.
It's not a good day. Not a good day at all. Not a good day at all. Let's see. There was one other question I wanted to get to, or either that or let's see. Quick. Somebody asked, talk about the WHO remdesivir study that just came out. I have not seen a new remdesivir study. I don't know if this is an old one that I've already seen from a few weeks ago, if there is one that like just came, because I feel like this is the fun part about SciComm in the age of COVID. There is like I wake up at 3 a.m. and I check Twitter to be like, what happened on the East Coast that has already shown up this morning that's going to blow up, that will blow up my life in 2 hours.
Right there, Jillian Lee, perfect example of frame shift right there. The cat ate the rat. 3-letter words. Oh, perfect. If you delete one letter, it fucks up every single letter downstream. And that's how you delete your gene.
I'm going to show that one on the screen. That is a perfect little. That's a great little example. Thank you for that, Jillian.
That's exactly what happens, and that's basically how we knock out genes.
It's Debbie Best just commented. What are we discussing? Thank you for getting your flu shot. We're doing shots. Thank you. Part of the herd. So just a reminder, there is only one thing preventing you from getting both COVID and the flu, and it's a flu shot. So go out and get yourself a flu shot, please, as soon as possible. Like go drop off your ballot at an official ballot drop-off place, and then afterwards go to a CVS or a Walgreens, pick yourself up some candy to tell yourself thank you because you did such a good thing, and go get yourself a flu shot at the pharmacy. You can do this all in a day. I'm just saying, it's a good plan for escaping the house. Anyways,
so there's an interesting question: how does genetic sequencing and editing work? That's a pretty good question. So on basically, reading an entire genome, it's a very tiny molecule. There's a whole lot of cell around it. And it's not like something you can just point a microscope at and look at every single molecule along the chain. It doesn't really work that way. So reading an entire genome is like, imagine if you wanted to read a book. So what you do is you take this book and you create 100,000 copies of it, and then you take all those copies and you shred all the pages. You shred all the pages into like strings of 10, 12 something words a piece, and you take your giant pile of shredded sentence fragments and you just read sentence fragment after sentence fragment after sentence fragment, and you read a sentence fragment out of this pool maybe 1 million or like 1 million or more times, and then you take all the sentence fragments that you've pulled out of this pile and you try and like piece it back together into what the original manuscript looked like. And that's basically how DNA sequencing works.
That is a good explanation. I've been trying to hunt down the remdesivir study. Also, fitness rank, yes, pants are always optional.
I'm wearing shorts.
I only wore pants because I was running around trying to take care of a few things like frantically before starting this. So I didn't have time to remove the pants. I would have otherwise, but you're welcome.
I just got home from the lab not too long ago myself, so.
So, anyways, so I hunted. This is why I always have like multiple ways to hunt down the internet, like whilst I'm doing this. Looked for the remdesivir study, and there's apparently no benefit to remdesivir.
Interesting.
Shit. Like I didn't expect that. That's a bit of a curveball. Remdesivir has little or no effect in reducing coronavirus deaths. WHO said. And this is a large global study. I'm curious what they're going to do with it now. If people are going to keep using it just in case, as is a thing that that places do when they're desperate. It's one of those things where medicine, like I'll have this conversation with doctors and scientists where people will say doctors aren't scientists, and it's like they'll kind of keep using this out of an abundance of caution and not knowing what else to fucking do.
I was many years into my PhD before I found out that a lot of things that we do in medicine we do because it works, but we have not a goddamn clue why or how.
So,
scientists came from like, hey, we want to understand this thing. And doctors come from a field of, okay, what works? Fuck it, I don't care why. If it works, you do it.
Want to hear something crazy? And this was so I was having I'd say an argument / discussion with somebody on if cannabis worked for pain, and they were going through what was it? Shit, I'll remember it in a moment. It's dang it. It's one of the places that really carefully vet studies. God damn it. Anyways, there was a website that had, God, it starts with a C, and I'm just having a blonde moment on it. Anyways, there was a huge repository of studies that just really carefully vets them, and it's saying one of the, it kept saying, no, cannabis isn't effective for this, and this, and I'm like, that doesn't make sense because there's already a drug using THC or using synthesized THC for pain and nausea on the market. And yeah, exactly. And I mean, it is not, Cochrane reviews. Thank you. Jillian I'm like, I know it starts with a C. I'm just blanking out. I'm like, it's in there. It's in front of my face. I can't see it. Yeah. Cochrane reviews is like all the things they had about it were just, it felt like they were it felt like they were trying to find only studies that said things that were saying this doesn't really work. And then I hunted around for other things that they said about other medications, and one of the things they reported on was, I want to say it was amitriptyline, and saying if it did or didn't work for certain types of pain. And they're like, we found in the study that it didn't work for pain, but we recommend doctors keep using it. And I'm like, wait, so we have evidence. We have a ton of evidence from people saying that that cannabis works. Good enough that we have a medication that the FDA approved for it, but you're in denial that it works. And we have studies showing that amitriptyline doesn't work for this, but you're telling doctors to keep using it based on anecdotes. It's very strange how medicine works like that. And
one of the painful things about science, it's not, studies are not the end all be all of knowledge. People will see, this one study came out that says this, and believe, okay, now this is true. This one study comes out that says that, and they believe, that is true. Like a study is a data point.
Yeah.
A study is the bare minimum bar that you need to cross in order to qualify as science.
Yeah.
And it's a community that is working on figuring this shit out. And you get different answers sometimes. I try stuff that other labs have described, and I get a different answer than they do. Other people try stuff that I do, and they get a different answer. One of the problems with this pandemic is that now all of this is playing out on the public stage. Because like a study comes out that contradicts a previous one, the scientists who study it are like, interesting, and they dive into it. But now, like every single study that comes out is global news.
And everybody who's, every jackass who you went to high school with who hasn't taken a science class since they were 15 is like, well, I guess science doesn't know anything. It's like, no, you don't know anything, Greg. Like it's a little annoying that you have to pretend that everyone who has ever read, who's ever watched Bill Nye's opinion about science or thoughts about science has equal weight to everybody with a PhD who studies and works on this stuff.
Right.
And that's kind of what's been hard. That's one of the many things that's been hard about communicating accurate science during COVID, while this information is building up regularly, as mentioned.
Honestly, scientists are people, and the process is messy. It's messy by design because humans are messy. Yeah. And the reason the process works the way it does is that we're trying to cut through the human messiness and come to some sort of consensus that people around the world can see consistently and go, okay, well, maybe there's something there to this. There's single quack scientists, and there's even communities of scientists who promote all kinds of things that are on the fringe, that are not quite popular yet. And I think a lot of the times, especially if a scientist is promoting a fringe opinion that happens to be politically convenient for someone or another, they wind up getting put on a public stage all wearing lab coats and photo ops and all that kind of stuff.
Wasn't it entertaining? I just want to point out a little, because I, like, each time I posted something just pointing out that, perhaps the Trump administration has not been upfront, and or the doctors representing them or pushing their points of view have not been correct about something. I have been flooded with bots and trolls. These are things that have happened regularly. It was interesting that when Trump was in the hospital, nobody, including Dr. Stella Emanuel or the people from, quote, America's Frontline Doctors, were out there saying, hey, we put him onto hydroxychloroquine and bleach. Nobody said that.
One of Trump's doctors who actually took care of him are the same as the doctors who he was promoting.
So why? I just want to know why. I feel when I say I want to know why, I mean I know exactly why we all do. But I want that level of curiosity, at some level of curiosity, to come from the people that follow him, and that makes me kind of sad, because I look at this and go, this is hurting Trump's followers. Because at this point, every candidate, no matter how good, will lose a third of the people. No matter how bad they are, they will win a third of the people. And Trump, it feels like, has lost that third, like almost that entire third in the middle right now, which is kind of crazy to watch.
Pretty much. But you know what? The third who will stand by him no matter what, if they howl extra loud and scream extra loud, and he adds a couple of bot farms and troll farms and help from foreign disinformation campaigns and a couple of sweatshops in Russia full of board
can make it seem like it's more than it is, right?
AstroTurfing.
It's, speaking of help from disinformation farms, this is something amazing. So the New York Post quote story this week, how much attention did you pay to that?
I did not see it at all, except obliquely, something about Hunter Biden.
So it's quick comment. Apparently there's a drinking game on the show that I was unaware of. I guess when I say hydroxychloroquine, everyone's supposed to drink. Look, this is my show. It's not a drinking game. It's a pot smoking game. So you guys know what you're supposed to do. 5 milligrams of an edible or 2 hits off of a minimum. Anyways, but here was so with this new story with Hunter Biden, he allegedly dropped off, and this is what's crazy. There's no confirmation of this. He allegedly dropped off not 1, not 2, but 3 laptops to a repair shop / pawn shop somewhere in either New York or Maryland. I forget where the location was. Somehow all 3 of them needed fixing on the same day. But who has 3 laptops that all need fixing on the same day and drops it off at a cheap ass place instead of from the actual Apple store or from a really trusted, who, when they are Hunter fucking Biden, when they have all the money in the world, drops it off to a shitty place with I don't know. I look at all this and go, there's like the start of this story doesn't add up. The guy who gave the laptop to Rudy Giuliani and or the FBI, his story keeps changing, and Rudy Giuliani's story keeps changing, and it's like there's nothing about the story that adds up. And so
it doesn't need to be believable to you is the thing.
Yeah,
it
exactly.
needs to be believable to the people who who already want to see it.
It needs to be believable to the people that are going to scream online, our speech is being suppressed. Look, Twitter won't show you the story. And it's like, it needs to, they're hoping that just enough people who are in that third in the middle will listen to them while they're screaming about it and not see the whole, this is clearly a series of things that are so crazy. There's no way it could possibly be true. Kind of like the child sex trafficking ring in a basement of a pizza place that doesn't have a basement.
Right. It turns out who would have thought that social media algorithms, which optimize for attention and engagement and selling eyeballs to advertisers, are not great platforms for orbiting truth.
What?
Who would imagine? Yeah, right?
What?
It turns out when you feed people information that contradicts their beliefs, they turn off of the platform and then they stop seeing ads, and the algorithm sees that as bad, so it feeds them the stuff that they want to read and they want to believe, keeps them on their phones, keeps them on their platforms, and keeps the ad dollars rolling. Yeah. Terrible way to understand the world, but
yeah,
how it goes. That's the world we live in.
But it is the way that some people understand the world. One day things will be less terrifying. Today's not that day.
Mm-hmm. I've spoken, with family and people on my wife's side of the family who are like, well, I see them, and how come nobody is talking about it? And I see this and that and that and how do you not see it? Because people literally see completely different bubbles of information depending on how you're profiled and what kind of stuff you're engaged in.
Yeah,
we've lost a community consensus of what is true and what is real in the world.
Have you ever looked at a Facebook have you ever been on just looked on at Facebook through someone else's profile that had very different views about the world than you?
Yes, it's scary.
So a while ago, and this is just a kind of nutso fucking story. A heroin addict was on my phone. So I was crashing at a friend's house, obviously a long time before COVID. I traveled down to LA. I was living in San Francisco at the time. Traveled down to LA for a work thing, crashing with an old friend, and they were driving back to the house from a thing, and a girl was running around the middle of the highway having a bad trip on acid, and they're like, we can't let her stay here, we're bringing her home. Anyways, this girl was she was coming off of more than one drug, and she needed to call someone to get home, and I let her use my phone, and she's logged onto Facebook, and I just because I'm curious and I'm a fucking snoop, and she's still logged onto Facebook, I look through it, and it is so strange looking at a Facebook timeline through someone else. It's like, oh, this is what the universe looks like through this person's point of view. And it's just, there were a lot of dumb people with terrifying opinions that were shallow and unnuanced and didn't look at the backstory behind things, and that were uncurious. And I'm like, oh my God, these are the types of opinions that a lot of people hold for bad reasons, and they vote. Those are terrifying thoughts to a lot of us for reasons.
It's incredibly scary. Incredibly scary, and it's a real problem.
Yeah. And here's the thing. There are people that make decisions on how they vote there are people that vote for, quote, good people for bad reasons, and vote for bad people for good reasons. And you just kind of have to hope that it evens out to more people voting for a less bad person for whatever fucking reason they do. So, and that the process will work out in the end, and that it's a free and fair election. Oh my God, we're fucked.
It's not great. It's not great.
I wish it. Yeah.
The rat fuckers are in, and the whole process is screwed.
I feel like the rat fuckers are in is just that's the theme of this year. The rat fuckers are in.
Right. So for those who don't know, rat fucker is the technical and proper term for someone whose job it is to do shady ass shit for politics, especially around elections. Like striking out people's voter registrations, like gerrymandering, like fake news, like bot farms, all that kind of stuff. That's rat fucking. And there are people in politics who have reputations as expert rat fuckers.
I love that there's an act that I didn't actually know that the term. I did not know rat fucker was the term for that, and I love that it is.
Yes, Steve Bannon, for example, rat fucker.
It's Roger Stone, rat fucker.
Roger Stone, rat fucker.
Roger Stone's like the biggest rat fucker of all time, isn't he?
The guy with the Richard Nixon tattoo.
Yeah. So true story, and I'm gonna guess most of my listeners here don't know this, and I don't think you knew this earlier. I have gotten high with Roger Stone before.
How is he stoned?
What?
How is he stoned?
I was only this was all about 2 minutes. So true story. A friend of mine is his. I'm like, people are clicking unlike as we speak, I'm sure. So a friend of mine is a speaking agent. Because I just once upon a time for about 4 seconds I was a libertarian. It was my late 20s. We all make bad decisions.
Who doesn't go through a libertarian phase?
In their late 20s for 5 minutes. Look, I made a bad decision. I never once voted for a libertarian. I was registered that way for 6 months. I lived in Orange County. Okay, it happened. Like when in Orange County, but anyways. So my friend, I was working as, I don't know if it was his liaison, speaking agent, handler for this thing, for this event, and I'm hanging out with his handler, and at one point we are wandering through the back hallways of this hotel, and there's Roger Stone finishing up this interview, and I have a vape pen on me because of course I do, and there's Roger, and I'm like, it's here you go. And anyways, there I am getting high with Roger Stone. So look, I'm just saying, I think that if you have a chance to get high with a supervillain, you get high with a supervillain. Like I think just being able to say, look, I did drugs with Roger Stone that's a good party line.
No. You say you got stoned with Roger Stone. That's the line.
I mean, well, specifically, I got Roger Stone stoned.
You got Roger Stone stoned.
I stoned Roger. Oh wait, it's not quite what I was aiming for there. But no, here's the sad thing is, like, if Roger Stone was not working in politics, he seems, by all rights, from everyone that I know who knows him, and I have an oddly high number of mutual friends with him. Like, he seems like a delightful human when he's not destroying democracy as we know it.
Like in my career as a magician, doing gigs and going to parties and going to fundraisers, I have met a lot of politicians on both sides of the aisle. And at some level, politicians become these kind of supervillains in the media. And it's like WWF.
When you meet them,
drama.
And you meet them in person, and it is hard. Like it's hard when you meet them sometimes not to like it's to separate out. It's like, oh, like this person is being really fucking nice to me, and they're a human here, and it's like you have to remind yourself they're doing awful things politically, and it's like there's almost always just a person who's not a douchebag, who's just an average fucking guy when they're not politicking.
Right. They are human. And I think that one of the problems of media is that we make caricatures out of everyone to the point where we kind of lose touch of the fact that everybody is a meat computer running on electricity in a meat suit. And the whole fucking world is absurd. And we got to figure out how to get our shit together, or none of us are going to make it. That's really kind of the fundamental problem, is how do we get like everyone to stop pissing in the swimming pool that we're all orbiting the sun in?
How to get people to stop pissing in the swimming pool. It's that question's an age of as old as time, but I think like we're only going to figure it out when we get out and I'll go, I smell of piss. Maybe I shouldn't have peed in the pool.
Right. I think religion filled that gap for a while. Back when we didn't know how shit worked and the world was small enough that you could have church once a week and have everybody in your community there. And if you run into another group of people, you just fucking murder them and take their stuff because, like, they're not your neighbors. But the world's gotten a little bit more complex since then. And stories about dead carpenters and angels really kind of don't cut it for the world that we're living in today.
You know, I have a theory that, like, if there's like some sort of weird human, like say we're 500 years from now, like what if, like, you know, it's say there's some sort of weird bottleneck event, human society crumbles, the internet goes down, and like people have to like read, say whatever. I think there's a possibility that 500 years from now somebody rediscovers the Harry Potter books and is like, wow, this is real. All this stuff actually happened, and they think Harry Potter is Jesus, and people go on 500 years to like have Harry Potter as their actual new god.
I mean,
I think if society crumbles, weirder shit could happen.
Well, trans people are going to be fucked 500 years from now then.
It's I'm just saying this is after the internet collapses and like and nobody knows who J.K. Rowling is anymore. They're just gonna think they're gonna be like, oh, J.K. Rowling was obviously a man because patriarchy will have taken over the world.
Actually,
and of course
J.K. Rowling because Joanne did not sell books.
Yeah, and of course J.K. Rowling will have no problem with being misgendered. None whatsoever. So
yes, I'm going to write a book about a man who cross-dresses to prey on women and children. God damn.
I wish I had nice words for her, but I don't. Joanne can fuck herself in the neck with a cactus as far as I'm concerned. Like there's this I don't know if theory is the right word, but you're familiar with the I guess theory, the ship of Thesis, where it's Theseus, where you take one plank off and replace it, and eventually, like, when is it a different boat? Like that letter that they did, where they're like this person, all they did was write an op-ed and they were fired for telling the truth, and this like that whole Harpers Letter was just an exercise in replacing planks. It's like let's strip all context from the things that these horrible people actually did and make it sound like they were being stripped of their right to express themselves. And it's like, yeah, they expressed themselves, and then people said they didn't like what they said, and they lost their jobs because maybe they're being held to account.
See, that's one of the things that gets me is that people complain about freedom of speech. They're like, oh, freedom of speech. Freedom of speech is, one, it's not about individual expression. It's about the government cannot limit what citizens can and cannot say. And two, freedom of speech is not freedom from consequences.
Yeah, I mean, and freedom of speech also means you cannot compel speech.
Exactly. Like, if you say that you have the right to free speech, what you're saying is that what you're saying is literally not illegal, and that is a very, very low bar for your idea. The best thing that you can say for ideas that it's not illegal.
And it's funny because like right now I'm seeing because Facebook and Twitter in the last few days have been like, hey, we're gonna take this very obviously fake fucking story and not run it and kind of try to keep it on the DL because it's fucked up. And you see people on the far right saying speech suppression, this is against the First Amendment. And I saw, who was it? I think it was Donald Trump Jr. because he's a bastion of fucking intellectualism. Come out and say that Facebook isn't a platform, it's a publisher. And I'm like, that's not how that works. But the other thing is, even if it was a publisher, they're not allowed to compel speech. They can't compel speech on a platform or a publisher. So even if it was a publisher, even if they were right about that, them being a publisher means they're protected from the government saying that you can or cannot print something. So it's whatever his point was, it sucked.
Like, hey, welcome. It's a private platform. They absolutely have the right to kick out anyone that they want. It's their freedom of speech to host or not host whatever opinions they choose.
Yeah, I think that it's hard for people who think that like all they've ever been raised on is just this unnuanced freedom of speech. I get to spew whatever I want. It's like you can. We get to throw tomatoes at you for it. That's just how that.
We get to decide we don't like what you're spewing, and not hang out with you. We get to decide not to give you a platform.
I mean, here's the thing, though. These are the people who are disingenuous enough to think that they can say what they want and should be able to say what they want without any pushback, and also think Kyle Rittenhouse was totally in the right to just shoot a guy with a skateboard. So I don't think that consistency of thought is exactly a thing that we're working with here, or that we're gonna bust through. Let's see. Somebody just commented. Stanley just commented. Demonizing people is not helpful or healthy on both sides. I'm not sure I'm not sure how to respond to that.
It's hard to respond to. Like
it's like I say this like I say this as a Jewish woman. How do you want me to treat Nazis? Like, what do you want me to say to Nazis, motherfucker? Oh, it's fine that you're waving your little fucking swastikas all over my country. It's totally cool. This doesn't remind me of the 40s in Nazi Germany. Fuck off. Okay. We're not doing this be nice to the guys waving. No, there's just we're not doing this. Like,
no, fuck fascists and fuck Nazis.
Like, it's these people have decided, like, if anyone in the because there are a handful of Republicans that are elected to office that have pushed back against Trump. This article came out yesterday with a recording of Ben Sass telling his constituents for a good, like, it was a 9-minute recording of him just ripping into Trump. I'm like, good, thank you. We need.
I think that behind closed doors, every single Republican.
Oh yeah.
You cannot be near the man without realizing how much of a complete drooling moron he is.
Yeah, I think one of the saddest ones is Lindsey Graham, because there are video time after time of him saying things that are completely contradictory to all of the obviously obsequious mewling, begging, please approve of me, daddy, please don't let out all of the compromat you have on me, daddy, ways that he treats Trump. And it's like, they all know how horrible he is, and they were willing to sell out democracy for a tax cut. So it's a little, like, I don't, if any of these people had at one point in time been like, we can get our tax cut or we can get whatever we want from someone who's not this morally bankrupt, I wouldn't be so mean to them, but they didn't. And so I won't.
Right. They kept their mouth shut while their cruise ship went off the deep end. Yeah. And the ones who did speak up either got primaried out and are no longer active, or they retired so that they can speak their will and say whatever they want.
Yeah. Like, they went on a speaking tour after. It's like Paul Ryan going on his cute little fuck Trump after he was out of office. It's like, you could have done something about this. You were there. It's just don't leave office and then be like, now I have a spine where you can't do anything with it. That's no bueno.
Jump off the sinking ship and then claim that you're the hero.
Yeah, it's a few people are trying. A few people in the comments are. Let's see. We have a comment from Martin Smith saying demonizing your opponents works like a charm. Martin, I'm just saying there isn't anybody like the odds that there is a Republican here, if someone who is planning to vote Trump, in this chat right now, who's here to be convinced not to vote Trump, that is slim to fucking none, my friend. There might be somebody who's like, I'm considering voting Jill Stein, Gary, whatever, one of those parties, who could be convinced otherwise. But I don't think anyone's seriously sitting here going, yeah, I could ignore, like, I've been ignoring all the other horrible things Trump has done, and I'm going to vote for him. But something this girl says after these 4 years is going to convince me otherwise. I don't think that's a thing that's going to happen, and I'm fine with voicing my opinion on people who are who have that poor of judgment.
It's cathartic too,
Yeah,
you can't look at all this horrible shit happening everywhere and not say fuck that. Like, if you don't say fuck that, if you kind of feel guilty, you kind of feel like you're complicit.
Oh yeah, and I mean, it's not just it's not just the political stuff. Like, I'm a full-time science communicator. Z is a scientist, and this has made my job so much harder. Just correcting all of the bad science that's out there on the internet. Like, every time, every science communicator I know, when they're just trying to say a simple fact about hydroxychloroquine, that it doesn't work, has gotten loads of spam and abuse and harassment because of all of these people that have been because of these bots, because of all these people that have been told that we're just saying this doesn't work because quote orange man bad and Trump derangement syndrome. Like, why is this the thing that I have to go up against? And that's like the fact that I even have to tell you guys this over and over again. It's a little sad. Like, it's me who has been pro GMO, pro nuclear, pro pesticide, all these things that leftists typically don't like and have yelled at me for in person. It's why would I suddenly now be like, yeah, I'm just gonna hate the Republicans for no good reason? Because now's the come on, just So there's good reason why it's different now. Okay, like it's Nature and New England Journal of Medicine and Science that would not be coming out. All of these different science journals would not be coming out against Trump if there wasn't a reason for it. So just
the era where you could largely assume that the leaders are competent and capable of doing what they do and that you don't need to worry about it. That era is 4 years past.
Yeah.
That era is long gone.
Yeah. Like it's been like, I mean, it's been hard watching everything that's happened in the COVID era for a lot of reasons, but part of it, you keep, you kind of keep hoping the next, or at least for the first few months of it, you kept hoping he'll listen to the scientists now, right? Listen to it now. And, it never happened. And right now, part of the reason why there's been such a push is like, okay, we have a shot to get out of this because vaccine distribution is going to happen soon. Because, if we don't get a new president right now, we don't know how we don't know if we're ever going to get out of this fucking hellhole. So yeah, going political right now is the smart thing to do. Not because all of these science places have like strong opinions on the marginal tax rates above $80,000 a year, but because we're going to fucking die if we don't. Because there's a pandemic going on that just nearly killed Chris Christie. Oh, let's talk about that for a moment. Because let's be honest, anytime something bad happens to Chris Christie, it's fucking hysterical. I'm a bad person. Like, dude, I'm just look, the guy. The man makes me laugh because he does bad things and then bad things happen to him, and fuck that guy. Okay, he shuts down an entire beach so that he can have it to himself. He partners with Trump after Trump fucking humiliates him. Doesn't wear a mask around Trump, being like, it's okay, COVID, no big deal, and then gets put in the IC goddamn you for a week before, like a week and a half later, being like, guys, I almost died. Maybe COVID's a big deal. I have no sympathy. I have none.
It's called the consequences of your own decisions.
Like,
you fuck around and you found out.
Exactly. Like I just there's no I don't understand how. No, I mean, I absolutely do understand, because he's in a cult. Like, once you're in this Trump this Trump bubble of here's how you're going to think, here's how you're going to act with it, you don't go against it, or else you're out of the president's circle and you don't get to keep staying in there. But like, man, how did Chris Christie look at this disease, all the things scientists have said? And Chris Christie used to be one of the more sane Republicans, this being a sliding scale. And how do you look at all the things with this and go, I'll be fine if I get it? I'm just an old overweight man with comorbidities. There's no way this is going to get me. And 7 days in the ICU, and probably the only reason that he's out and doing as well as he is because he got polyclonal antibodies that nobody else has access to yet. So herein lies the fundamental issue with some of these people who have been saying this is no big deal, this is fine. And I know Chris Christie isn't saying this anymore, but the people who for a long time were like, no, it's fine, it's cool, to the Republican base, after they get sick and after they've pushed a lot of people to go out and make poor decisions, is when they're suddenly like, we should wear masks.
Right. It's kind of part of that broader trend of, I don't give a fuck unless it affects me.
Yep.
Like, other people aren't real. Other people don't have complex internal worlds and realities, and other people are just decoration in my life. And
Indeed.
We've got the president of that being the president of this right now. And yeah, it's kind of a like pathology that is there across the entire country. We've kind of lost sight of, hey, other people are real and other people's experiences are real, and something can matter without it directly affecting or happening to you.
And I think that's why I think that's why the president et al. have kind of landed at herd immunity as a good way to go for this, herd immunity without the vaccine, because president's like, well, I didn't die, so obviously the flu is more deadly, which is basically what he said. Like, it's, I feel like if it, like you said, if it doesn't impact them, it doesn't impact anyone. Somehow ignoring all the high numbers of deaths, somehow just saying, all right, we're going to go with herd immunity. And it's not a plan. It's a severe lack of
herd immunity is a really weird way of saying, let's let lots of people get sick and die so that they can be dead without us having to do anything.
Yeah, and I think, again, this just completely misunderstands, and I've seen this with people who don't understand science for whatever reason, or aren't familiar with it. But herd immunity is like the thing that I keep seeing is let young healthy people go out and get it and protect the vulnerable. Like, you can't separate out society by age and by illness and hope that it's just going to work out like that. Yeah. Like, it's young healthy people work at nursing homes. Younger people live, like, there are multi-generational households. Like, you can't separate everyone out like that and expect it's going to work. Like, the countries that have been successful have been ones that have just basically paid people money to stay home for a few months to get this under control. Right.
Look at what happened in Florida. It's like, oh, our infection rate is really high, but it's all young, healthy people getting it, and our death rate is really low. Yay! A few weeks later, the death rate goes because those young, healthy people have parents and grandparents and old people that they come into contact with. And
shocking.
It's hard to really wrap your head around how interconnected the entire world is.
Yeah.
It's really kind of takes something like a microscopic plague virus.
Yeah.
I haven't died, so death doesn't exist.
Yeah, I mean, like, I haven't died yet, so I'm gonna live forever. So far, so good. It's Munch and Christian just said Sweden tried it and that failed. Yeah, and here's the thing: I get these arguments back and forth saying Sweden's doing fine. No, it's not. Sweden's case, both their rate of fatalities and their rate of cases is way higher than all the countries around them. So they're just kind of saying that they're doing fine. Like, you could try to frame it in an article that they're doing fine, and that doesn't mean that they are doing fine. Yi Zhang just commented, "Did you hear Ben Shapiro? Old people have no economic value." What? Yikes. Man, I hope Ben Shapiro never grows up to be an old people and then regrets the words he said.
Right. First it's death panels coming for your grandma, and now it's your grandma has to die for the sake of the economy.
I mean, but to be fair, I just really hope Ben Shapiro never gets old.
I love that he has now become that he is now a meme. To pull a Ben Shapiro is to be so aggressively ignorant that in order to teach someone how they're wrong, you would have to charge them tuition.
Oh my God!
It's called pulling a Ben Shapiro.
He's so amazing. Like, the version of wrong that he is incredible, because the way that he quote debates, or he kind of debates himself. He makes his little videos, and all he does is fire hose with questions, which is a good thing, because that's the only way he can ever get at anyone wet. Just ask his wife. Sorry, it's just I haven't. Look, we will not get through a single show without making a Ben Shapiro joke until Ben Shapiro gives his wife an orgasm, which will be never. He will never do it, and so we're always going to make a Ben Shapiro joke. But no, it's like Ben Shapiro's way of debating. I mean, and it's brilliant, because a lot of people don't catch on to it. He asks a zillion questions, none of which he actually wants an answer to. He just wants to look smart by being like, well, how do you do this? What's your answer? But after he asks a zillion questions, you're sitting there going, I know the answers to all these. How the fuck do I can't get a word into. He doesn't actually want the answer. So after he asks those zillion questions and makes himself look good, and he's like, boom, mic drop. I asked a lot of questions and they didn't have any answers. It's like, no, you didn't give me when was I supposed to answer those, fuckface? Like, and that's how he looks good.
You suck all the oxygen out the room. You soak up all of the airtime and all the attention, and it doesn't matter what you say as long as your face is the one out there saying these things. It's an economy not of truth, but an economy of attention.
Yep. And there was sorry, go ahead.
Truth is often a barrier. Like a lie can get halfway around the world by the time the truth can barely get its shoes on.
Or its pants on in this case.
Or its pants on. Yeah, if you're optimizing for sensationalism and virality, science is boring. Facts are boring. I think it was like Sagan's corollary to Occam's razor is that, like, in science, when there are multiple exciting competing explanations for a phenomenon, generally the most boring and mundane one is the true one.
Yep. Unfortunately,
a lifetime of like scientific is where that came from.
Be more fascinating, dang it! No.
Either these neutrinos went faster than light, or our wire is loose.
It's like, or we miscalculated. Dang it! Carry the 2 next time, Johnson. Carryover errors.
Do you know about the miscalculation with the Mars mission a few decades ago?
I not off the top of my head. Let's hear it.
Okay, so we had a rover, like some tens of millions of dollars, and it had this really cool deployment system. This was before the rovers that we had air cranes to drop them down. It was basically an airbag system. This thing would just and deploy airbags all around, like 360 degree, and it would bounce and bounce and bounce and roll to a stop, and then the airbags would deflate, and there you go. Robot landed on Mars. Except that the Canadian scientists sent the data to the Americans, and the Canadians were like, oh, NASA's American. We're going to convert this to miles per hour and send it to NASA. And NASA went, oh, they're Canadians. We're going to convert it to miles per hour before we put it in our system. And long story short, after tens of millions of dollars and multiple years and like the entire astronomical community holding their breath, instead of going boing, that robot went splat.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
All of this could have been prevented with an email being like, hey, are we working in metric or fuckface numbers? Like, which one are we working with? Let's be considered. Like, one email could have prevented a lot. But like, I love that Canadians assumed that Americans were working with dumb numbers. Mm-hmm. I'm not even going to call them American. Like, I just call them the dumb numbers. That's what they are.
Not even the Imperials use the imperial system anymore.
No, like they're just the dumbers. We're going to call them the dumbers. That's what. Right. No, like I just. Like, it was funny because when I moved I lived in England for a year. When I moved there, they just all assumed that I did not know how Celsius worked. I'm like, guys, I already have a bachelor's in chemistry. Come on. I had to remind them that my relatives are from Canada. They're like, no, we don't believe you. We know how Americans are.
Moving to the States from Canada, Fahrenheit took a long time to get used to. But I will say that one thing that I do like about the imperial system is Fahrenheit, because Celsius is like 0 to 100. How does water feel?
Here's the thing with Fahrenheit that makes more sense to me, because it's like I know what like the different temperatures feel like. Like I know that like what correlates to what, because I went to Canada for enough of my youth. But also like I feel like a difference of 5 degrees in Celsius feels it's so wrong to me that 5 degrees makes that big of a difference, because 5 degrees like there's a
lot more like Fahrenheit is a much better spectrum.
Yeah. It's like
0 is really cold, 100 is really hot. Celsius, 0 is cold, 100 is dead. And the entire like spectrum of like human experience is like within like 40 or so degrees. Fahrenheit, you have a whole 100 digits to work with.
It's a good range. Like that range really fits well with the stuff that we do in everyday life, and but also it's a dumb fucking way it was set up. Like
you don't need the ones digit in Fahrenheit when you're talking about outside temperatures. Just the tens digit is fine. Whereas in Celsius, the ones digit makes a huge difference. If it's 9 Celsius and 1 Celsius, that's very different.
Yeah,
11 and 19, very different.
Yeah, it's like
Fahrenheit,
it's funny. Yeah, like all my relatives being from Canada, when they're like, yeah, it was below 0 today. I'm like, how much below 0? Like, I'm not giving you too much sympathy if it's only 5. Like, that means it's still in the 20s here, which means shut up. It's not cold.
Right, right.
I say that knowing, like, when I lived in New England, like, temperature didn't, like, it's being cold. Like, I was better about it. Now that I live in California, if it's below 70, I'm like, give me my coat. I'm dying. I will die of exposure if it's below 63. We are soft here. We are very soft.
What's the weather like in California? Well, it's either nice or on fire. Take your pick.
It's nice on fire, or Californians are complaining that it's 63 degrees. I'm not even kidding. Like, there's in the month of June, we have this thing in LA called June gloom, where it's a little foggy in the morning and Californians complain about it.
Oh,
that's a thing. It's so I just want to tell you guys, because I'm still fascinated by the fact, like, 'cause I'm on 4 different platforms now. And I've been so used to being on Facebook, where I am in a comfy, soft bubble of people I know with screen names that I recognize. So over on YouTube, because I'm getting used to weird fucking commenters, there is, quote, the screen name of 9 inches for ya lil booty, saying, "Hey, baby girl, give me some milk, baby girl." And I just want to let you know that I'm horrified, but I look at this and go, man, I'm old. I'm really old. When I see these things, I'm like, dude, you know that I'm a 37-year-old woman that has a great body for a mother of 3, and I'm a mother of none, and this is what you're hitting on your Friday night. Like, good job. Yeah,
I don't think he cares.
Like, you have other things you could be doing with your Friday night. Like, there's so much porn on the internet, and I review it on my podcast, 2 Girls, 1 Mic. So, but I find the weird, gross hitting on from YouTube to be, I'm amused by it. I'm like, dude, don't you have anything better you can do? There are other places.
Really kind of tragic how that's kind of just the ubiquitous background noise of existence.
Yeah. It's like, this is the guy, like, and it's I know that, I know this man's pants are off right now, and he's like, yeah, tell me to fuck off. I'll fuck off right while I'm watching the, oh God. Being a woman on the internet's fun. It's fun. It's a fun nightmare. It's like a nightmare, and there are boners involved.
Rule 34. If it exists, somebody's into it.
I on some level, I understand that there are people jerking off to this live stream on a weekly basis, no matter who my guest is or what we're talking about. And you know what? I gotta be okay with that. At least someone is touching themselves to some sexy science. Yeah. That's what I'll keep telling you. Look, it's and you can either with stars right here on Facebook. Thank you to those who sent them, over on PayPal with a one-time donation, or at patreon.com/SciBabe, where we have an extra. Just get that money. Over at patreon.com/SciBabe, where of course we have our once a month Patreon extra live stream, and there is a special Patreon angle where we post the camera where you can see extra bits of my room. So just please come join us on Patreon. It's delightful over there. If you're somebody, and also because I know a bunch of you guys regularly throw into to stars over here on Facebook, which I really appreciate. Thank you guys so much. But if you're someone who regularly dumps into that and has not joined over on Patreon, it is only $1 a month, and you get perks. You get to come hang out over on Patreon, and there's a patron-only forum over on Discord. Peter just asked, when is that? It's generally the last Saturday of the month, unless I wake up on that Saturday morning and have a terrible headache and say, sorry guys, it's going to be next week instead, which has only happened once. But yeah, that's generally when it's last Saturday of the month at noon. So there's one weekend where I have a Friday doing this, a Saturday noon doing the Patreon one, and then Sunday of doing the noon regular olds stream here. And it's just, by Monday, I'm like, I don't want to see a human. This is too much camera. I don't know how people do
the hustle.
Like, I don't know how people do Zoom. Like, when I hear teachers and saying they're tired from doing the Zoom for teaching, and when students are not feeling okay with it, like, oh my God, I can't do this for 6 hours a week without being like, this is too much. But that's just me.
You know, you really kind of lack the people in front of you that is so much feedback. You know, there's all that nonverbal rapport and back and forth that just is so much harder to get through a screen.
Yeah, it's like I miss like I didn't realize how much I miss conferences because I'm like I like I like I'm both, how to phrase this, I am both a talkative person, obviously, and a bit of an introvert. Like I love hanging out with people, but at the end of it, I'm drained. I didn't realize how much I would miss conferences though, because like I used to be like, this is so draining, I can't do this. And now I'm like, I miss people. Let me get out of the house. I want to see strangers. I want to lick a strange human, any human, someone please. And I just, yeah, I miss people, and I to all of you folks out there, as I usually say, when I meet you, I will hug and lick anybody who wants it and or consents to it. Speaking of, Z, as you watch this regularly, have you ever been here for one of our weekly licks?
Weekly licks?
So once upon a time, and we're still trying to figure out if this can happen, we wanted to check if we could, people are very excited about this in chat, we try to see if we can pass COVID via computer screen. So I'm just going to lick the or not actually put my tongue on the camera screen, but I'm going to lick the screen. If you would like to join me for this, you are more, you're invited on three, shall we? One, two, three. Nice. You're joining the illustrious crew of people who have joined me for a camera. It's a famous headache doctor has joined in on this. Seth, wait, I think Seth Andrews is the only person who I didn't ask, because I'm like, Seth is like just so he's so proper. I don't know. He's the properest human, and I'm like, I didn't feel like I could ask him. I'm like,
I like to have a bite, but I don't hate it.
What?
I didn't expect to have a bite, but I don't hate it.
Oh man, let's see. Star Sterling. I've been as dry as Shapiro's wife's pussy the last few casts. Look, hey, we looked the screen last time. Let's see. I think it was me and Celestia last time, and I think she did it. So it's been Jennifer Bolak, 2 tongues, 1 stream. We do what we can. We try to keep. We try to keep it interesting. We're just, look, it's I feel like the lick started as a joke, and I feel like now if I stopped one day, there would be outcry, there would be riots in the street, there would be pitchforks.
It's a tradition.
It's a thing. We can't. It's like now. I feel like if somebody were to say no, I can't do it. Like it would be like, number one, I would feel a great shame.
That'd be terrible.
Be so sad. We can't do that to people. Good times. Let's see. Akiko just commented, I hope Z's lick rewrote some of my genes for the better. So see, your lick your lick is a CRISPR. That's what I'm going with. It's, if you could just through the screen like fixed my Ehlers Danlos.
Yeah, I'll work on that. You're gonna need to pay me about like $200 a week. And I'm gonna like wave my hands and channel some energy fields, and then you're gonna feel better. And the more gullible you are, the better you're gonna feel. So if you don't feel better, it's your fault. But you still have to pay me.
Do you have any magic tricks that you can do via the that we can? Ooh, let's show us a magic trick.
Well, normally, the kind of stuff that I like to do is like face-to-face, in person, with interaction and so on. And I really kind of miss that, but it's obviously a horrible time for it. But I can do some sleight of hand.
Yeah, please do.
Yeah, hang on. I've got a deck of cards at my table right here.
The people who are still with us are our weekly faithful, and a lot of them are. A lot of our humans are the patrons who are still here. So
the rainbow keyboard, of course.
Nice. Very nice.
No gamer is complete without one. Okay. Here we are. So this is the first card trick I ever learned, and when I tell magicians that this is the first card trick I ever learned, they call bullshit, because it's kind of a hard trick. But I've always been a nerd, and I've always been kind of obsessed with wanting to know how things work. I saw this on YouTube, and it broke my brain. So I obsessed over it for weeks, reverse engineered how it must have been done. And then when I showed a friend of mine, she was like, oh my God! And being a nerd my whole life, that was the first time a girl reacted like that to anything I had ever done. So I was like, it's kind of neat. So this is what this person did. He took 1, 2, 3, 4 cards, and told me to follow the bottom card, the 4 of hearts. Let me turn this light down a little. Seems a little bright. Okay, 4 of hearts. It's on the bottom. So if you reverse it, 1, 2, 3, 4, that takes it from the bottom to the top.
All right.
Really can't. Okay, here we go. To the top. Now, took it, put it on the bottom, gave it a snap, and it just kind of, see, jumped to the top. Took it, put it on the bottom, gave it a snap, and it jumped to the top. He took it, he put it in the middle, gave it a snap, and it was still on top. He put it on the table, and it was still on top. Put it on the bottom, and it was still on top. He put it in the middle, and it was still on top. He put it on the table, and it was still on top. So a lot of magic is just.
I know how some of these are done, and I still can't catch you doing it.
Well, this one's easy because all 4 cards you see, they're it's a cheap trick. They're all the same card. I thought I'd do an easy one. You see, the top card is just the 4 of spades, and the second card is the 4 of spades, and the third card is the 4 of spades, and the fourth card is the 4 of spades. So it's a really dumb trick because it's just 1, 2, 3, 4 cards, all the same, all the 4 of spades, except.
God damn it! You're gonna do this again.
2 kings, 3 kings, 4 kings.
Fucking hell!
4 cards.
This is witchcraft.
So let's try this. 4 aces. 4 jacks. 4 plus 4. I know you have a master's in chemistry, so 4 plus 4 is.
I hope it's 8, or else there's something is askew in the universe.
1,
I'm just saying.
2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
Okay.
I'm going to take the 4 jacks. I'm going to set them down right here. And we're just going to put this on top. So what did that leave me? 4 jacks on the table, 4 aces in my hand. We'll flip these up, and we'll flip them back down. That's 1. That's 2. That's 3. And that's 4. 1, 2, 3, 4 aces down. And obviously, snapping my fingers doesn't change cards, but yet, you see, 1 ace turns face up. I'll do it again. Snap. And isn't that infuriating? It just suggests that that snap is doing something. And now there's just 2 aces face up. Did you see it happen?
God damn it.
2 aces. I snap again. Look. 3 aces. And 1, 2, 3, 4. So that was the aces. Let's do something with the jacks now. So we're gonna take 1, 2, 3, 4 aces. We're gonna set them down. Now what does that leave us here?
I hope 4 jacks,
4
but
jacks.
I will bet on nothing anymore.
You probably shouldn't, because you see the aces flipped up. The jacks are gonna go the other way like this. And that's 1 jack face down. And if I do this, see, that's 2. This, and that's 3. And this last jack, you know what's going to happen to it? If we wave goodbye, it turns face down. And that's 4 jacks face down. The crazy part is, you see, if I wave it over here, it starts to look like 1, 2, 3, 4 aces, doesn't it? It's just an illusion. It's not actually 4 aces, but it just looks like it. Just a little bit. In case you missed it the first 2 times, let's do it one more time. 4 aces, 4 jacks. We're gonna take 1, 2, 3, 4 jacks. We're gonna set them down. We're gonna take 4 aces, leave them up. Now, if we take 1 ace and give it a wave, you see it turns into a jack. That's 1. If we take an ace and we give it a wave, that turns into a jack. That's 2. If we take an ace, we give them both waves, they turn into jacks, 3 and 4. See, over here, the aces. Over here, 4 jacks. But now watch. I do that, and I do this. Over here is 1, 2, 3, 4 aces. And over here are the jacks. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
Oh my God.
I
Rich,
mean,
Rich Wendling just said, "This is why you don't
Blackjack.
deal for blackjack." Oh my
Yeah,
God.
we can play blackjack. I'll let you win. No big deal.
That was so cool. Thank you for doing that.
My pleasure.
It's us. Troy just said, "Why did you do this to me, Side Babe?" I did nothing. I just showed you that Z's Z's a witch. But this was I feel I think I told the story last week about you tricking a group of people into thinking you had psychic powers.
I accidentally started a cult at Dragon Con.
It's let's delve into, and I mean this, let's end on this note, because it's such an interesting story about how hard it is to get people to stop believing something. And I think that's kind of an interesting parallel to what we've been talking about with Trump and COVID and whatnot. But give people that story. It's a really good one.
So, you know, I've always looked up to James Randi, Penn and Teller, all the way back to Harry Houdini. You know, magicians and psychics have had a very, very ancient antagonism kind of thing going on. And I was deep into skepticism at the time. You know, helped found the Skeptical Society of St. Louis, very active in atheist activism and going to a lot of conferences. I went to Dragon Con in Atlanta, which is a big like Comic-Con, sci-fi, everybody dresses up, like 20,000 nerds in cosplay, flood all of downtown Atlanta with costumes and so on. And they had one panel there. It was a track on like paranormal and supernatural stuff. And I was kind of interested as a magician to kind of see what psychic believers got up to and what they did. So I went to this conference on remote reading, and it wound up kind of being as lame as I thought it would be. It was like it was, you know, this woman showing the whole room full of people photos of various places and asking people how the photos made them feel, and then stretching like a gymnast to try and get their feelings to fit with the history and context. Like, oh, you're obviously psychic because you're picking up on this, and oh, well, you must be getting this feeling about that. And it was like, it seemed like people were into it, which made no sense to me because it was so incredibly like cringy.
I think everyone who knows, like, if you know anything about how people do hot reading, or if you're in the know on this, you will look at all of the psychic type stuff and go, really?
Right.
But anyways, carry on.
You know, so I was like, I can do that, but much better.
You're evil, and I love it.
Right. I go up to the organizer during a break, and I present myself as like a psychic interested person, and I tell her that I've been working on this exercise, and this is a room of very receptive people, and the energy in this place is so strong that I was wondering if I could try something. And she's like, okay, sure. You know, when I'm done with my thing, you can go ahead and give it a try. So like, I got up and I introduced myself, and I presented myself as someone interested in psychics, and I say that I've been working on some things, and I, you know, had some envelopes, and I had some pieces of paper, and I had some pencils, and I had 3 people each write down something secret on a piece of paper and seal it in the envelopes. And then, you know, it's like, I'm getting the word that you're thinking of. It's, you know, say it in your mind, not out loud, but I want you to really say it in your head over and over and over again. Say it, picture it, like picture the way that word sounds in your mind, and really transmit it to me. Transmit it. I'm getting W. It starts with a W. Yes. it's water. And she was like, oh! And basically, like, I just divined the contents of all 3 envelopes with 100% accuracy, really kind of playing up the psychic angle.
Oh man.
And like, people were amazed. And, you know, most of the room left, some of them like freaking out and talking about it. And then like a small group of people came up to me afterwards and were like, oh my God, what did you do? Was that real? And I was like, well, you know, I've kind of been working on some psychic things. And then I showed them my ability to manipulate energy fields.
Oh my God.
I had a compass with me, and I showed them how I could make the compass needle deflect. I actually have a magnet surgically implanted in my ring finger.
Oh my God.
I have an RFID chip in my left hand,
and that's amazing.
and a magnet in my right hand. And so I was using my magnet to just deflect this compass while being like, and like, people were amazed. And I wound up spending the rest of the day, it was like 6 or 7 hours with this, like a dozen people following me everywhere I went, telling me stories about their lives and telling me about their own psychic experiences. And
I didn't realize I knew that you had pulled a trick. I didn't realize I didn't realize about the magnet part. Holy crap. Like, if I was someone who was prone to being going to something like this and believing it, I would have been fucked. I would have been like, yeah. Z is Jesus.
Right. It was so weird because, like, you know, they started like massively oversharing these like incredibly horrific stories of like abuse and helplessness and the kind of shit that somebody goes through that makes them want to believe that wishing and thinking really hard can change the world around them.
And they probably saw you as some sort of a deity that could help.
They had power that they wanted, and they were just like trying to do everything to like get me to think well of them and asking me questions and asking me to make like major life decisions for them and wanting my advice on their future and like what they should do about this and that. And it was weird. Like, I understand where people like John Smith and L. Ron Hubbard get carried away from it, because having people, like, it was scary to see how willing people are to just surrender all of their autonomy and all the decisions about their lives, because like, I don't want to be responsible for this, and neither did they.
Were you mildly less ethical? What you could do with that power, and look at what people do with that power when they take the things that you know are tricks, and they're like, I have powers. You don't have powers. You know a few tricks.
Right. I told them eventually that I was a magician and that what I was doing were tricks.
That's the most amazing part of this to me, is the punchline of it, is how they reacted.
They react like half of them were disappointed and disgusted and claimed that they knew all along and they were only pretending to worship me and kiss my ass and buy me food and everything. And then, like,
sure.
And the other half of everyone, they started arguing with me. Like, they believed that I was now lying about being a trickster, because they believed that I had power, even though I was telling them that I wasn't. They were confused about why I was suddenly disavowing all this stuff, and they were trying to argue with me and tell me that I was actually psychic, whether I knew it or not.
It sounds like the best parallel I can come up with. It sounds like when I don't know. It's so amazing. It reminds me of when Bernie Sanders told people, "No, vote for Biden." They're like, "You don't know. You don't know your own opinion as well as we do. Like, you can't make up your mind. We know that's not what you really think." Oh my
Cultists,
God.
man. Cultists.
When you've decided on a thing that's real, nothing. You can't convince me. You can't convince me of the truth. I know it already.
Mm-hmm.
But man, the fact that you that people can be so easily fooled by a magician, I think, is why we have a lot of magicians who tend to be skeptics, because they know, they're like, I just spent some time learning how to do this trick, this thing that is absolutely a fucking trick. I use this series of methods to trick people, and they go for it every time. It must mean it's easy to trick people on a lot of other things.
I have performed shows at like colleges and universities, and I have had like, you know, often like young white women with like tears streaming down their face coming up to me afterwards and asking me to contact like dearly departed loved ones and like help me to and like asking me for help processing their grief. They have offered me literally any amount of money I could name if I could channel the spirit of like dead loved ones, because they're just so desperate for like
if you were just a little less like, look, I'm just saying, we could take my theatricality. Like I have a theater degree. We could take, and if we could find someone with no ethics whatsoever to like stage all of this, we could do. No, I'm just kidding. We can't. That'd be awful. But man, they're like, and that's the thing, is that there are people with no ethics. Who are professional grief vampires and are like, there is someone who's willing to pay any amount of money to contact their dead relatives, and that's what they do, is they'll take any amount of money for it.
You're haunted by evil spirits. All these misfortunes in your life are obviously the result of a curse upon your spirit. Buy these $100 candles and light them at exactly this time, and then waft the smoke throughout your apartment, and it will cleanse the spirit, undo the curse.
Yep. Good time. Yeah, and we need more people like you exposing them. Anyway, it has been an hour and 45 minutes that I have kept you here on a Friday night, and I'm sure you have a lovely wife to go hang out and spend your time with, and not just us doing more card tricks. So anyways, where can people find you on the interweb, Z?
Well, you can find me on my Facebook, ZITENGWANG. I keep all my stuff there, from random writings about science education to snippets of life stuff to opinions about this, that, and the other. You can also find me at my website, www.zithementalist.com. And my YouTube for my magic is linked there as well. It's Epistatic Magic, EPISTATIC Magic. It's not a very like well spruced up channel. It's something I created on a lark a while back. Mostly I work on word of mouth and reputation within my city, but still have that website, still have that YouTube. So yeah, I hope to see you on my Facebook. Shoot me a friend request or shoot me a follow. And yeah, look forward to hearing from you.
It's Russell says the wife is annoyed because you're leaving and she's stuck with him. So okay. So you've made a lot of people's night. You made my night by hanging out with me for a while.
You made my night too. Thank you for having me.
I'm glad I'm glad. It's just to let the rest of you guys who are the stragglers, but people who hung out for the whole time. I basically put out an all call to my friends who are sciencey people and podcasty people and people in SciComm who you guys know, and I'm like, hey, whoever is willing to hang out with me on a live stream, just let me know. And a long list of people did, and I am booked out till the end of November already. So there are tons of people who you guys know in the science community who we're going to have on. I'm very excited about. Thank you so much for coming on and hanging out with me, you guys. It's another week in the apocalypse. We have less than 3 weeks until we can have a good night's sleep. Maybe. I sent my ballot off today. I went and hunted. Go through there. If you're in a state where there are ballot drop boxes, go to the website for your state and find the address of an official drop box. Don't just go up to a random one. I found the official address for one in my state and dropped mine off, and I am tracking my ballot. Please drop off your ballot early if you can. And of course, as usual, wear your masks, wash your hands. I love you guys, and I will see you guys on Sunday. Bye.
Have a good one.